energy shifter. Your very presence can shift the frequency of a room. The moment you walk in, the mood subtly adjusts, like a quiet ripple across still water. People pause, conversations soften. There's no theatrical entrance, no exaggerated behavior, just a silent pressure that announces itself without words. This is the mark of someone whose internal energy is stronger than their need for external validation. You don't crave attention. You draw it without trying. Your aura is a force, unapologetically intense yet controlled. You've probably been told that you have a vibe or that you feel different. And while others might try to decode it, it's not something you crafted, it's who you've become. Because when you've been through enough, seen enough, and rebuilt yourself in silence, you radiate a kind of stability that others find both attractive and unsettling. People often mistake it for arrogance or coldness, but it's neither. It's clarity. You know who you are, and that inner knowing creates an invisible gravitational pull. It makes people look twice. It makes them question how to behave around you, not because you're trying to control them, but because your energy demands alignment. It doesn't tolerate fakery. It doesn't entertain chaos. You are not someone people forget. Whether they like you or fear you, they remember how they felt around you. That's the essence of an energy shifter. Not someone who speaks the loudest, but someone who alters the atmosphere just by being. Unshakable calm. Real power doesn't always roar. Sometimes it's completely silent, and that silence is exactly what unnerves people the most. You don't flinch when tension rises. You don't panic when chaos erupts. You breathe. You observe. You stay grounded while others scramble to find their footing. That's not just confidence, it's emotional mastery. There's something deeply intimidating about someone who cannot be shaken. In a world driven by reaction, social media outrage, impulsive arguments, emotional outbursts, your calm feels almost unnatural. People don't know how to interpret it. They wonder what you're hiding. But the truth is, you're hiding nothing. You've simply learned that not everything deserves your energy. You don't match other people's chaos. You don't raise your voice to compete. You stay anchored in your own reality, and that makes people confront their instability. They can't pull you into their drama, and that frustrates them, because most people rely on emotional volatility to manipulate, to gain attention, to win. But you've already been through the fire. You've already fought wars within, and you know that calm isn't weakness. It's survival. It's the kind of quiet strength that only comes after you've rebuilt yourself from the ground up. People might call you emotionless or detached, but the truth is you feel deeply. You just don't perform those feelings for the world. You control them. And in doing so, you control the space around you. That unshakable calm, it's not a defense. It's your true form. And to those who haven't mastered themselves, it's terrifying. Deep eye contact. Your eyes don't just look, they see. And that simple act of holding someone's gaze without fear, without distraction, unlocks something most people aren't ready to face. Themselves. You don't glance. You don't scan the room looking for approval. You connect. And when you do, it feels like time pauses. The person in front of you starts to feel exposed, even if you've said nothing at all. Because your eye contact isn't a performance. It's truth. And truth, especially when silent, can be terrifying. Most people avoid deep eye contact because it creates vulnerability. It feels like a confrontation, like their mask might fall. But you live in that space. You don't fear what you might see in others. And more importantly, you don't fear what they might see in you. You've already faced your darkness. You've already stared into the mirror without blinking. And now, your gaze reflects that journey, an unspoken awareness that whispers, "I've seen worse than you." People feel that. They may not say it, but they feel it. In your presence, they suddenly become conscious of their lies, their weakness, their insecurity. They look away not because you're aggressive, but because you're real. And realness makes pretenders uncomfortable. What's intimidating isn't the eye contact itself. It's the stillness behind it, the clarity, the courage, the complete absence of shame. Most people need filters to feel seen. You offer none, and that's why your gaze carries the weight of 1,000 conversations. When someone can look at you and feel deeply examined without being judged, they'll either admire you or avoid you. but they'll never forget you. Because deep eye contact? It's not just a look. It's a force, a quiet power, a mirror to the soul, and you hold it without apology. Commanding silence. There's a silence that feels awkward, and then there's a silence that demands attention. Yours is the latter. You don't talk unless there's a reason. You don't fill the air just to make others comfortable, and that restraint makes people nervous. In a society addicted to noise, constant opinions, and surface-level talk, your ability to withhold words feels almost unnatural. Psychologist Carl Jung believed that much of our discomfort with silence comes from our fear of confronting the unconscious mind. When words disappear, all that's left is truth, and most people aren't ready for that. But you've made peace with silence. You've lived in it. You've grown in it. Your silence doesn't beg for attention, but it commands it. People lean in. They wait. They wonder what you're thinking. And when you finally speak, your words land with the force of 10 others. Not because you speak louder, but because you speak with intention. That kind of power unsettles people. It forces them to become aware of the space they take up. It reveals how much they rely on noise to feel relevant. Meanwhile, you radiate strength without saying a word. You listen more than you speak. And when you do speak, it's never to impress, it's to express something real. French psychoanalyst Jacques Lacan often emphasized that speech is only powerful when it emerges from desire, not habit. Your speech pattern reflects this exactly. You don't speak from a place of ego, you speak from clarity. And that makes each sentence matter. Commanding silence isn't about being mute. It's about being deliberate. It's about understanding that presence speaks louder than performance. And when your silence is rooted in self-awareness and confidence, it becomes more than a pause. It becomes power. A kind of power that unsettles the insecure and awakens the aware. Natural influence. You never raise your voice. You never chase attention. Yet people listen when you speak, and even more when you don't. That's the paradox of natural influence. It isn't about control, it's about gravity. You don't push people to follow you, they simply find themselves aligning with your presence. Influence, in its truest form, isn't taught. It's remembered. Something in your manner and the way you carry yourself reminds people of strength they forgot or never developed. Your words land because they aren't dressed to impress. They're clean, calm, and unapologetically grounded. And that tone, so rare in a world filled with noise, draws people in like a quiet fire in the middle of chaos. What makes it intimidating isn't the influence itself, but how effortlessly it works. You're not trying to convince anyone, you're not selling an image, you're just being. And that being, so certain, so steady, feels unshakable. Others try to be loud, flashy, or charismatic, but it rarely lasts. You, on the other hand, could walk into a room and shift its entire mood without saying a word. There's a kind of power that doesn't need permission or validation. The kind that emanates from someone who knows exactly who they are, and more importantly, who they are not. You've done the work, you've faced the silence, and now you move through the world with a quiet kind of certainty that makes others question themselves. It's not manipulation, it's alignment. People don't follow you because you demand it. They follow you because their instincts whisper, "This one knows the way." And even if they can't explain why, they lean closer. They take your words seriously. They hesitate before disagreeing, not out of fear, but out of respect. Natural influence isn't about leading others. It's about standing so solidly in your truth that others begin to find theirs. In a world obsessed with fitting in, rare authenticity becomes a quiet form of rebellion. You're not trying to impress, entertain, or perform. You're simply present as you are. And that simplicity is powerful, because when someone isn't playing a role, people don't know how to respond. They're used to the mask, not the person beneath it. You don't dilute your truth to be digestible. You don't adjust your voice to match the room. You exist without distortion, and that purity, that rawness, it unsettles people. Why? Because it reflects what they've hidden within themselves. Most people haven't met someone who lives without pretense. And when they do, it challenges every mask they've carefully constructed. Your words carry weight because they're not rehearsed. Your silence feels louder than noise because it doesn't seek attention. It holds it. You don't demand respect. Your presence earns it, not through dominance, but through unwavering self-truth. And that's rare. Abraham Maslow described this in his hierarchy of needs. The final level, self-actualization, is where a person no longer lives for approval or survival, but for truth, growth, and purpose. A self-actualized individual isn't perfect, they're real, they live from the inside out. That's who you are. And that level of wholeness cannot be faked or ignored. You don't manipulate the energy of a room, you stabilize it. People feel safer around you, yet strangely exposed. You don't speak much, but when you do, it resonates. Not because it's loud, but because it's aligned. That's what authenticity does. It cuts through performance and hits the core. You might be misunderstood. You might be labeled as distant or intense. But deep down, people recognize something different in you. They may not say it out loud, but they know it's rare. You are not a copy. You are not a curated version. You are a mirror of what's possible when someone chooses truth over performance. And that, in today's world, is nothing short of intimidating. Protective vibe. You don't just walk into a room, you create a shield around it. People feel safe in your presence even if they can't explain why. It's the way you observe before you speak, the way your body language holds ground without being aggressive, and how you instinctively notice what others miss. That's not just awareness, it's protection. Your vibe is not about control, it's about stability. You radiate a sense of readiness as if nothing could blindside you, and because you carry that energy, others unconsciously relax around you. Children open up. Strangers share secrets. Friends call you when the world is falling apart. You might not always say much, but your presence alone tells them, you're safe here. This protective quality often stems from your own emotional foundation. Erik Erikson, in his psychosocial theory, explained how those who develop a solid sense of identity, especially during the stages of trust and integrity, become natural anchors for others. You've weathered enough storms to become one. John Bowlby's attachment theory adds even more depth. People with a secure emotional base, those who don't flinch when others are falling apart, become psychological safe havens. You've built that kind of internal security, and now others lean on it, often without even realizing why. But here's the paradox. Your protective vibe doesn't make you soft. In fact, it intimidates people who are used to power games or emotional manipulation. They can't figure you out because you're not trying to prove anything. Your strength is quiet, subtle, and yet undeniable. You don't need to raise your voice to be heard. You don't need to show dominance to lead. Your aura speaks before you do, and it says, I will not harm, but I will not be harmed either. This is what makes your presence unforgettable. You're not just a person, you're a refuge, and in a world that constantly feels unstable, someone like you isn't just rare, you're revered. Comment your thoughts, hit the like button, and subscribe to Psypedia for more psychological videos.